Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia, too, joined by my co-host Tori Kravitz, and welcome back to another sweet episode of She's with the Band. Today, we're joined by two badass ladies who have been releasing incredible metal music for the last decade. They've been captivating frontwoman fashionistas, and most importantly, they're best friends. It's Heidi and Carla from Butcher Babies.
Oh, I love that.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi. How are you
How are
both
you guys?
doing?
Great. Awesome.
So
Packing up, getting
good.
ready to go to Mexico City for a banger of a show at Hell and Heaven Fest.
Amazing. There's so much on the horizon for you, so I know we're just going to dive right in since there is so much. One of the latest things that you've shared is your cover of Best Friend, and it was the perfect song for you because you two truly are that close, along with being real bad bitches. Now, I love seeing how you uplift one another rather than tearing anybody down. So what is it about your fellow Butcher Baby that initially drew you into one another? Did you kind of feel that instant respect, which is pretty hard to find?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Being in LA, you have sometimes the female friendships are not as good as they could be because people are always competing with each other. When I met Heidi, it wasn't a competition. We were completely different people, but with one major thing in common. We were both very motivated by the goals that we had and the dreams that we had. So it was like just a meeting of the minds, I think, and we just pushed each other to succeed and be better than we were by ourselves together. And it was a different, probably one of the first female friendships that I had that was more in that realm. Now that I'm older, a lot of my friendships are like this. We push each other, we support each other. But I'll say when I moved to LA, when I was young, it was very hard to find that kind of a bond and connection with someone. And so I was extremely lucky to find it in Heidi.
I think for us too, it was kind of the perfect combination of personnel and time too. I was already in a band and it was a punk metal cover band. It was so much fun. There were 5 girls that fronted it. It was wild. And we were looking for another girl to join, and Carla reached out via MySpace, and she drove up in her Corvette and she had fringe boots, and I was like, either we're going to be best friends or mortal enemies. And luckily we were best friends. And one thing that I really appreciated with Carla when we first met is, there are so many. I grew up in a world with cheerleaders and in sports, and it's a lot of cattiness in the back end. And one thing that she supported me. And if anyone was talking bad or if anyone was trying to slight me in any sort of way, Carla was the first one to jump to my defense. And
Bitch, guess what?
yeah, exactly. So
As it should be.
yes. And I think that has really kind of pushed its way into our career, which is nearing 15 years at this point. And I think that having that support system, when we believed in each other before anyone else did. And I think that we remember that always. And that's kind of followed us into our adult years. And all these years later, I think that's how we've maintained such a true friendship and respect for each other.
Yeah. And I mean, especially when you think about the early beginnings of the band, I'm sure it was such a hustle. So having each other's back so early on in such a difficult industry must have brought you just so close.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I can't imagine having done some of the things that we've done like on my own, without the support of, a best friend with you. We've been through a lot, we've grown together, we've had our failures together, our successes together, whenever something has let me down, she's right there with me and we can pick each other up and say, you know what? This didn't work out for us, but this next thing is going to work out. And that helps. We always have our very own cheerleader in our pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like you two are very resilient as well.
Oh, yeah.
When we first started our band, there weren't nearly as many females in the industry as there are now. There's so many now, which is amazing. We love seeing, powerful women taking over the industry like yourselves, and it's a beautiful thing. When we first started, that really was not the case. There were maybe 2 handfuls of women out there slaying, and in extreme metal, I guess you can say. And for us, it was really difficult to navigate where people were like, oh my gosh, one girl's weird in a band, but two girls in a metal band.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Chaos.
So, yeah. So I think, being there for each other really was something that, we had a lot of people who tried to tear us apart at the very beginning. They really did. And still people do, even though we've kind of proven that we, like you said, resilient against it. But I can't, kind of attesting to what Carla said, I can't imagine being, talked to or talked down to, or the things that were said about us. I can't imagine, having to overcome that on my own. It was really, really great to have the support system there, with Carla, and then also our guitar player who's been with us from the beginning as well. So it's definitely a band of best friends is what we say.
Yes. And thinking about your early beginnings, I could imagine from the get-go having two women fronting a band that the term female fronted was no stranger to you guys. And I know that it took a long time for you to come to terms with that label, if you will. But I just read in a previous interview that you aren't really shying away from the term anymore, although that doesn't always seem to be the case. Like, some bands out there are like, oh, this is divisive, it's harmful to women in music. So I'd love to hear from you guys why you think that might be the case and what led you to say we're letting go of that argument, it's fine.
I just think it's silly to, obsess over the term female fronted at this point. We're lucky that we are doing what we love to do, male or female, this far. We've come so far in the last 15 years, and that doesn't happen. It's a 1 in a million opportunity. So we're so grateful for that. So if someone wants to call us female fronted because maybe they like female fronted bands and that's how they found us on a female fronted playlist on Spotify or Apple Music, so be it. It's really not offensive to me, as long as we're also in a few just plain old metal categories as well.
Exactly.
But it's really not to me. I'm not like, oh my gosh, don't call us that.
Well, also, I think if you look back at like some of the women that inspired us in the 90s, like for instance, Alanis Morissette, Fiona Apple, Gwen Stefani, we've got PJ Harvey, Tori Amos, all these women, they weren't concerned of, maybe someone found me because they like Alanis, or maybe someone found me because they like Sarah McLachlan, or whatever the case may be. Like Lilith Fair existed, and it was a celebration of women in rock. And I think that all those women being a part of it, we're grateful to be a part of that movement, and showing that women can get up there and rock just as hard, if not harder. And I think that we've kind of adopted that look into the metal world. Whereas I look at this more as, the girls that are in this industry, we support each other, and we're like when one wins, we all win. So when people think, oh, female fronted, if they want to look at it as like a group, sure, whatever. We've broken down so many crazy barriers that women in metal were not supposed to break down. You look at festivals and you've got women on main stage, all the stages. You've got women, almost as many women as men now, where that didn't exist before. So I kind of look at female fronted as a movement rather than a genre. And I think this movement is gorgeous. I think it's amazing. And I'm very grateful to be a part of the movement of it. And if people want to classify us in one way or another, I can't stop them. It's just like, people classify the blonde girls all look the same, which is a song title of ours from 100 years ago. But, it's to me, I look at it as just as like, if people want to classify me as groove metal, which I don't understand that. If people want to classify us as metalcore, I don't understand that. To me, it's just metal. Just like to me, like this is all just metal, whether people look at it as female fronted, groove metal, whatever the case may be. I'm just grateful to be here.
Mm-hmm.
That was so
100%.
lovely. Oh, we're happy that you're here too.
I think being able to turn that,
into a positive
and having that mindset is a healthy way of doing it. because it's not going to go away. And, you know, people constantly talk about it and they're constantly pushing like, oh, this is bad. This is bad. But the more and more you push that, the more bad it becomes. So I guess
Yeah.
in a way, we're just kind of accepting and celebrating women instead.
Now, there are a lot of young females who have watched all of our work over the years, and before it was almost taboo, but it's amazing
Yeah.
to see how into fashion and beauty we can all be, but then we adore the metal and the horror and the gore, and it's always been such a funny juxtaposition to me. So was it hard kind of finding other females growing up who also had those same passions, or did you find that you ended up befriending most of those commonalities more in your adulthood? Because I know that, Carla, you had mentioned it more in the metal world earlier, but how about just in general growing up?
You know, in general, the things that I was into were always things that women thought were, other girls thought were a little strange. I think so. I never had that many girlfriends growing up. I have a few lifelong friends that are incredible and amazing, but not, you know, I was never the girl that had a ton of friends. And you know, it's just, I would always envy that, like when people had big groups of girlfriends. Like, how does that happen? How did you meet all these girls that you have something in
Right?
common with? It's
Yeah.
just like when you see pictures of bridesmaids and there's like 15 girls up there with the bride, it's like, how the hell do you have 15 best friends? That's crazy.
And
I was
most of
more of
them
a
were
person
sisters,
that
okay? They
would
were
find
sisters.
like one person to connect to. And you know, and I would find girls that, you know, that liked comic books like me, or I took a lot of art classes, and I would find, you know, a girl that wanted to draw with me all day, or something like that. So yeah, I searched for that. And as far as like the beauty stuff too, I think when I started going to shows and stuff when I was young, I would meet girls, you know, based on, we back in the 90s, we had always had the cute little t-shirts with the little words on them, and you know, we wore sparkly makeup, and I don't know, it was, so I found girls that way too. I remember seeing a girl with, we had the same boots. I had pink boots and she had blue boots, but they were tall and sparkly. I'm like, we need to be great friends.
As easy as that, huh? And how about for
Yeah.
you, Heidi?
Well, I think I grew up where, you know, I was in sports. I was a cheerleader, so I was around, you know, other women all the time, but there were not any women at all where I grew up, or young girls at all that liked metal. I I was a lone ranger with the boys with that. And I remember having these dude friends that I met at the skate park, and I was like the only girl that hung out with them, and I would listen to metal with them. I would sneak out of my parents' house and go listen to metal with them. I was the only girl. And it was almost like I was kind of like a tomboy in that instance, you know. But then I had my girlfriends, my gal pals that I had known since I was a kid, and you know, we connected on so many different levels. But a lot of my friendships were derivative of sports, and because I spent so much time, you know, traveling and practicing and all sorts of things with my gal pals. And I remember for one, it was a cross country meet, and they don't let you, I think now they may let you, but back in the day you couldn't run with like a Discman or a Walkman or something. So
Okay.
but you couldn't run with headphones on. And I remember running by this hard part in the race, and I had all my friends yell, it was the Smooth Criminal cover by Alien Ant Farm. And I had them yell, instead of Annie, are you okay? I was like, yell, Heidi, you okay? You okay? You okay? You know, so like rock and metal, it was always a thing. And I remember I was a high jumper, and I would listen to like Papa Roach, like Last Resort. And then I was introduced like Korn and Slipknot. So Korn and Slipknot were my pump up music for my high jumping, and or my pole vaulting, or any of those jumps. It was you know, you need something explosive for that. And so you would always see me bouncing around by myself at track meets with my headphones on before I was supposed to play, or before I was supposed to compete, and listening to metal. But I couldn't really connect with any of the girls there on those type of songs.
You know, it's so interesting because I remember a very similar thing of listening to metal, and again, Lone Ranger woman. And I'm like,
Same.
why was there this weird stigma when we were young that girls weren't listening to metal? Where were they? And it's just so cool to see that now. At least it's
Yeah.
changing.
Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness. The front row of a metal show is, especially at our shows, is mostly women. And it's these girls, like, they just throw bows getting up to the front. And I'm like, girl, good for you. You've been pushed to the back all these years. Get up there. So
Yeah.
so it's amazing to look out and see the diversity within the crowd. It's definitely grown to more of a 50-50 as our career has gone on as well.
It's amazing.
Awesome to hear. Also, Carla, did you need to go or are you still good?
I do have to go in a second. So
Okay.
I'll go now and peace out now. But thank you guys so much. And
Thank you, Carla.
I'll see you in a couple days, Heidi.
Yay!
Rock out
Thank
together.
you.
Thanks for joining us. It's been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
thanks for
Okay.
having us. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.
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 And then there were 3.
And then there
And
were
now,
3.
now that she's gone, I'm just kidding. Totally joking.
Oh my gosh.
This is
Now
where we
let's get
go
to the
back on
beef.
everything we just said. No, totally.
So
Just
best
joking.
friends, right? No. But to touch on also, to build on your last answer, what you were saying about like the female population at your shows growing. I've seen countless testimonials that female fans who are just grateful for the representation and empowerment that you're bringing to the genre. Because like you said, early on when you started, it wasn't as common as it is now. So I'd love to hear from you on what your most uplifting fan encounter has been that made you realize, oh shit, we have a positive impact on these women. We're changing things.
It's really hard to pick just one, because the reason that we have continued this when it gets tough, when failure is imminent, because failure, you can't win without failing, but when it's on the brink of, should we even be doing this anymore? Are we wasting our time? And then there'll be either a young girl, an older woman, middle-aged woman who, says, keep doing what you're doing. This is inspiring. This is incredible. And to me, that's what really keeps me going. When we first started in our very first tour around the United States, our first tour was in the UK, but our first tour here in the United States, I remember a woman coming up, and she was definitely there on her Harley. And she came up and she was just like, you guys are exactly what I needed when I was young. And to me, I was like, oh, okay, this means something. This isn't just us putting on, an eye bar and going out there and just, in everybody's faces. Cause that's really what it was at the beginning. It was just kind of like, I spit blood and all this stupid shit. but as time has gone on, I realized, okay, this means something to people. It means something to me because I get to get up there and this is my free therapy, but it means something to other people. And everything that I'm putting out there, some people may hate it, but some people are really, really grateful for it. And so that kind of helped us continue at the beginning, and hearing these things over and over again really solidifies that, okay, I am supposed to be here. I am, no matter what the naysayers say, this is supposed to be where I am. I am supposed to, touch this person's life in this way on this day. We just finished a tour, an extensive tour in Europe, all over Europe, places we've never played before, and in front of crowds that we've never played in front of. We toured with a band called Beyond the Black and a band called Amaranth. They're very, very large in Europe. And there are so many people who are like, I've never heard of you before, but holy shit, keep going. And women coming up and saying, I want my daughters to see this. Like, to me, that's insane. And even, playing in front of crowds that we do know here in the States, and there are women who bring their young daughters to see us. These young women started listening to us in high school. Like, having someone be like, I I gained inspiration from you in high school, so I want you to meet my daughter. Like, to me, that's crazy. And I can't even believe I'm that old, but I am. But to, like, those instances right there really, they touch my soul, and they show that all, someone in, Nebraska telling me to die of cancer, that doesn't make its way here, because I've got this young little girl and her mom who I inspired. Like, to me, that's the most important part.
Yeah, that's
And I
legacy.
feel weird saying that. I feel like it's a little bit, I feel like, holy crap, I can't believe I've been around that long, but I have.
No, that's beautiful though, because one of the things with us as well is you get all the negativity and you get everything thrown your way that can just be so shit to read. And then you have those little moments, those little sections throughout your career where you're like, that's why, and it sounds so cheesy to say, but you need those things to really counter all of the bad stuff that's thrown your way. So it's lovely you found that.
Well, and I think every single person in the world can say that if you're going through your comments on, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or whatever platform you may use, you're going through comments and there may be, 10 amazing comments and then one nasty one. And that one nasty one will always sit with you, and, it'll try and ruin your day. And I think what I've been able to do over the years is that one nasty one is totally absolved by all those other positive ones. And I think if we can everyone can learn to do that, we'll all be much happier.
For sure.
Or just not write shitty shit on the internet. There we go.
I like that solution. Let's
go with the latter.
that.
Well, during that story, you mentioned your first tour, and that happened to take place in 2012, where you had this tiny bus, as you would always say in air quotes, and risked it all simply going on tour with your friend. Now, you've spoken about how fresh everything was, slumming it to trying to make things work, and it clearly did work since you're here now. So when you think back to those first gigs, where were some of the weirdest venues you remember performing, thinking like, man, we're doing this right now?
Dang, I think one of the hardest was actually not here in the States. It was in England. It was in Wolverhampton, and I think it was called like the Slade Rooms or something. We were out with Fozzy, and we had put all of our stuff backstage, as you do, and all of our stuff was stolen. And obviously it was, I don't know if it was open to the public or how it all happened, but all of our stuff, passports, stage makeup, clothes, everything, backpacks, my wallet. I luckily had my phone on me. We had stepped away to get something to eat, and I would naively left my stuff there, if that's even the word. But I think that was probably one of those like troubling moments of crap, but we pushed through it and we played the show in our pajamas, and it was one of the most fun experiences. And then later on that tour, we did a one-off date with Anthrax in Cardiff, Wales, and we played this big cathedral. And I remember thinking, this is insane. I cannot believe that this is my life right now. We're opening up for Anthrax and we're playing this huge cathedral. And something that was actually kind of funny on that day, our drums were supposed to be delivered to that venue and they never made it. So the other opening band on that tour let us use the drums. And Aww. It was just like, so the show opened up and someone tossed a beer on stage, and our drummer at the time grabbed the cymbal and licked the cymbal. And I was like, okay, let's play the show. So it was just, even in moments of our shit gets stolen or our drum kit doesn't show up, but we still get to play these amazing shows. It doesn't even matter the venue. It just matters that we get to do it. And especially when we first started in 2012, or started that touring cycle in 2012, the band started in 2009, but during then it was like, I'll play someone's basement, I don't care. Which we have done. So
just let me rock out, would you?
Yeah, just let me rock, man.
That's amazing. And I didn't realize that this interview was going to turn into a deep dive of your career, but I think that's where we're headed. So let's continue on that route.
Yeah.
Because I remember there's certain bands where you see for the first time and you just never forget that amazing first impression. And Butcher Babies is one of them for me. I mean,
Oh, thank you.
like I just remember how amazing you all looked, and at the time you were doing the nipple tape thing on stage, and it was such an FU, as you've said, to the industry's expectations of women in metal and what they should look like. And I was just like, that's the one, everybody.
I love that you saw it for that. Thank you.
Yes, it was just total rebellion in just the coolest way. And I know earlier this year was a big full circle to make the resurgence of the nipple tape for that Freak on a Leash video, which was also rad. But Heidi, I know you've also spoken that, having these constantly changing expectations of what a woman should be in the industry caused quite a bit of a whiplash, as you put it, which I think is
Yep.
probably a very appropriate way to say it.
Yeah.
And you all both have been very outspoken that it's okay to embrace all the different sides of yourself, because us ladies, one day we want to be sexy, one day we want to be in our sweatpants like I am right now.
Yeah. Yes. Me too.
Same.
Look, y'all, we got to look cool on the top and whatever you want on the bottom.
Chill
It's
on the
fine. We're all
bottom.
Yes.
but not to get on too much of a tangent here, I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about how those kind of pressures impacted just the decisions that you all have made through your career, both musically and aesthetic wise, everything, as front women.
I think, I kind of will address this because it even happened just the other day. I was reading an article from a show that we had in Hungary, and they mentioned every single, it was all women, fronting a band, however you want to call that, tour, powerful women tour, just out there slaying, fronting a band, however you want to put that. And the article spoke on what every single girl was wearing. And very, very little on the show, but they spoke on what every girl was wearing. And I have to tell you this. So this past tour, I was kind of in a fuck it mood, and I wore a windbreaker, leggings, and some Fila kicks, and just and just hair down, all black. It was the jacket said heavy. Sometimes I wore a different jacket, but it was all very just relaxed. And Carla wore like some jean shorts, like she looked, her motorcycle boots that she wears all the time, and like a leather jacket with a t-shirt underneath. And they called it white trash. And I was just like, okay, so if I wear something that shows cleavage, I'm a hoe. If I wear shorts, I'm a hoe. If I wear pajamas, I'm lazy. If I wear a windbreaker, I'm white trash. What is it, guys? What's it supposed to be? And to me, I thought it was so silly that they just commented on pretty much whatever each girl wore, and they judged our shows off of what each girl wore. And I find that so interesting because from the very beginning of our career even till now, people are like, you shouldn't focus on what you look like, you shouldn't focus on this, what you wear, you shouldn't focus on this, it's supposed to be about music. And we do that, and all of a sudden we're ridiculed for what we're wearing or praised for what we're wearing. So it is kind of a double-edged sword, and it is kind of, like I said, whiplash. And it's been that way our entire careers. And the post that I made about it, I remember Lizzie Hill commented on it, said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm like, yep, summed it up right there. That's exactly what it is. And so I don't care anymore. I'll get on stage not wearing makeup if I want to. It's just, I get up there and I'm having a party, and whether you want to be at that party or not is up to you. And it's not based on what I'm wearing. So, and not only that, but honestly, the outfit I wore in this last tour was so cozy, and it was so much easier to run around and jump and stuff. So I think I'm just going to continue, like, yoga pants and jackets and call it sexy.
Wouldn't blame you at all.
It seems like such a trap. I really feel for you, because it's just absurd. But I imagine too, like, how do you decipher what you actually feel comfortable doing on stage and what is like right for you and your, I don't know, like what is authentic versus what's expectation, and how you're being influenced by other people? How do you just stay authentic in the middle of all that? Because I would find that very difficult.
Well, I think at this point, I just don't care, um, what people think about what my stage wear is. I'm not influenced by expectation any further anymore in my career. I feel like as a young woman, I definitely was. And when we first started with the nipple tape, which of course was an ode to Wendy O. Williams, the first female in this industry who really went out there and said F you to the industry, as you stated before, and you saw that in the show. It was more punk rock rather than anything sexy. And I saw so many people that didn't understand that. And I caved into the expectation of, oh, I'm supposed to wear like black leather and do this and do that, and I'm supposed to have this sort of face on stage. And I realized that it wasn't fun for me. It's not fun. Like for me, I want to get up there and I want to feel the emotions that I'm supposed to feel for my music as well. And I think that living by the expectation was very short-lived, because I realized it didn't suit me. And I learned that lesson very fast. So moving forward, all these years later, even if I read an article like that, it doesn't influence me to change things up at all. When I get on stage, I think that what I wear is 100% secondary. What I do on stage is the most important thing, and how I perform on stage is the most important thing. And so, if I get up there and I curse someone out or something, that would be bad. But if I get up and I'm wearing something with cleavage, that doesn't matter. Or if I'm wearing white trash tracksuit.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that white trash line literally had Tori and myself just gobsmacked. I cannot believe that that was even said, but that's the perfect kind of segue into our next segment as we talk about jaw-dropping moments of your career. So the first thing that I'd love to ask is, what would you say is the most jaw-dropping experience you've ever had at a show? Because I know Carla's fallen right off stage. You've split your pants up there. So what would you say is number one for you?
I think the number one jaw-dropping moment for me was, we were on tour with Marilyn Manson, and it was one of our biggest tours we've ever done. And it was the beginning of 2013. It was freezing cold Canada. No one deserves to be up there in that weather.
Right now.
That's where Alicia's from.
You poor thing. But and we were in Edmonton, and I remember we had released our EP and our album was slated to come out later that year. And we were on stage, and I got everyone yelling, "There's blood everywhere." And I look into the whole crowd, and this is, an arena full of people with their fists in the air doing, "There's blood everywhere." And I turned around and looked at the band, and everyone's faces were like this. And I remember getting back into the show, and I just felt so much gratitude. I felt like it was everything that I had dreamed of as a kid in that very, very moment. I even wrote about it on social media later that night. I sat in the empty arena as we were loading out, and I sat in one of the seats on the side, and I cried, and I wrote out this little social media post about how when I was a kid, I was like 11 years old, I would lay in my bed and listen to my Walkman and pretend that whatever band was on the radio, I was the singer of that band, and I was envisioning my show moves and everything. And I felt like I was that 11-year-old girl in that very moment. And I think that to me is the most jaw-dropping, because it was the first time. We've had so many incredible experiences during, our nearly 15 years in this band, but I would say that was the most important one for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's everything you must ever dream of, any artist when you first start out, is a moment where you could play an arena and have everyone echo you back. That's
It was wild.
surreal. Yeah.
I mean, I still get chills to this day, like talking about it, because it was that moment where you're like, wow, my dreams are coming true. That's and anyone who's had a dream in their life and you have that small touch to it, that's that moment. And I'm glad that I can
100%.
remember it.
Yes. And next one here. I feel like you partially answered this already, but maybe there's another answer. The most jaw-dropping misstep early in your career and the lesson that you learned from it.
Well, it's hard to really pick out a misstep and regretting something, because everything has really led to this point.
Mhm.
I think working with certain people and putting full trust in certain people straight out of the gates is something that I learned is, as we get older, we all learn that, I believe. But putting my career in some people's hands, or, bending over backwards for some people, that you put kind of a dent in my career, my personal career. So I think just learning to vet people better, I guess, in a way. But I can't really say like an exact thing. Um, there was there were times where we had to cancel some stuff where we could have avoided it if we had decided to, talk to and work with different people. But other than that, I can't really like put my finger on things, exact moments, although I do look at everything as like a learning experience, and I'm super grateful for all that. So it's hard to pinpoint regrets. I've
Yeah.
always kind of said in my life, like, I don't really walk through life with regrets, because I feel like every single thing that I've learned, I've used.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's why we ask that question too, because everyone comes to the table with valuable experiences that where you've learned things that helped you grow as
Yeah.
a person and help you grow as a professional. So I guess in terms of vetting people and knowing who to trust in the industry, what would you say like you've done differently now as you've grown in your career and knowing, okay, I can trust this person or don't trust this person? What would be your advice there?
I think just I was very just, hey everyone, come on in, let's do this together, and not everyone has your best interest in mind all the time. And I think that was something that was a hard lesson to learn. um People have their own agenda, which is totally normal. That's a normal thing in life. I think I needed to learn that, and it's okay. But you always have to kind of protect yourself and learn what other people's agenda is. And if your agendas coincide, awesome, work together, make it happen. I think that goes to say, even in forming a band, every single member has to have the exact same vision, otherwise it won't work. Every single member has to realize that you're going to sacrifice relationships, you're going to eat shit, you're going to sacrifice your friendships, you're going to sacrifice everything, jobs, money. You might just not have enough to scrape by and have to take a small job or whatever the case may be. But having those people on your side that understand and want that as much as you do, I think that is a huge lesson for anybody who ever wants to start a band, is just having the same agenda and the same mindset.
It's great advice, because I feel like we've all been in that situation where you've said yes to something because it seems great on the surface, but you didn't do that extra second of homework and you're like, man, why did I put myself through this? So rather than speaking on some a-holes that you've worked with in the past, I would love to move forward to some dope people. Who would you say is the most jaw-dropping female artist that you would love to work with?
Oh, that I would love to work with. I've worked with some really, really absolutely incredible women. I've been so lucky throughout my entire career to be supported by like the most powerful women in this industry. Some women that I would love to tour with, or work with, would be Lizzie Hale. Of course, Hailstorm is just powerhouse. I actually, we watched them at Rockfest side stage, and I was just, when you're just having an emotional day, I just cried a little. I was like, they're just so good. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm taking all the inspiration and I can. I love Dorothy. I think she's an incredible human and I love her music. We've been friends for so long. I would love to work with her. Friends with Nita Strauss for nearly 2 decades. Someday it'd be amazing too. We've always just kicked around the idea, but also like people, I would love to work with Alanis Morissette. I would love to work with Gwen Stefani. She is my queen,
Yes.
like I never want to meet her because they always say like, don't meet your heroes. And I've just always loved Gwen Stefani. I've thought her punk rock attitude was like, especially in No Doubt, was just so vibrant.
Effortless.
And stage persona was incredible. It still is. I saw her just a couple of years ago. Again, I cried. But my boyfriend has met her several times and he's like, don't worry, she's a sweetheart, you would love her. But women like that, I just think that when powerful women come together, it is mind-blowing what you can accomplish, just like yourselves.
You're so
Absolutely. And
nice.
it's so sweet that you mentioned Nita Strauss as well, because we actually mentioned you all in an interview we just did with her. And just like just the powerhouse, like supporting women, supporting each other, and that whole mentality. So it's very clear you both have that.
Yeah, I adore her.
Yeah. And last one we have for you here is most jaw-dropping misconception about butcher babies that you wish people understood.
That's a really good question. I think the most jaw-dropping is that, like, because of the way we look and the attire that we wore at the beginning of our career, that we're like hoochie mamas. I'm actually a giant prude. So and I kind of alluded to this in I made a post about bringing back the tape for that Freak on a Leash cover with Little Miss Nasty and Gina in the Easter Block. I alluded to that because in real life, I'm very conservative. I grew up very conservative. I have a hard time. I'm like, oh, but my butt cheeks are showing. I can't do that, And I think that a lot of people think that we really love that sort of attention, when in all actuality, I never did and I never have. When we did the nipple tape and everything, it was more of a punk rock in your face. And as we said, a big FU to the industry, to social status, social norms, all that above. And I never did it to be sexy. And I find it so weird. Like every time, like I show a little bit of, belly or cleavage, people are like, oh my God, they just want to be sexy all the time, which is not the case. I'm a prude. So
It's a little 2 for 1 though, you get to keep that prude side. If they think it's sexy, then hey, it's a little bonus.
Yeah. I think another one too that a lot of people get incorrect is, especially in Europe, we get this a lot in our press in Europe. People think that Carla and I were playmates, which is not the case at all. So I get that all the time. They're like ex-playmates. Even in like Mexico, they say ex-playmates. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Just because I got a boob job when I was 20 doesn't mean I'm a playmate.
Wow.
That is,
I guess that's a bit of a compliment in a sense.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, there's worse things that people could say that I am.
Wow.
So
well, I'm glad we can clear that up.
Guys, I promise you.
Amazing. Well, Heidi, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us to debunk all the misconceptions. And I feel like we've both learned so much about butcher babies today. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you to Carla as well for her short appearance in today's episode. And of course, to my co-host, Alicia, too, for kicking butt as always. So everyone watching, make sure you stay tuned right here on notfest.com for another new episode coming next week. And until then, we'll catch you next time. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.